all right. It's One Page Story Extravaganza, episode number 166 of 2023. It's exciting. It's very exciting news, isn't it? Okay, hi. My name's Christopher, and look at that. What do we got up here? It says, have you ever had an idea that you thought should be a story, but were not prepared to invest millions in making it a motion picture? Should be a question mark there. There's an easier way. What's that, Chris? Stay tuned to find out. All right. Hey! Frankly, Mapleton, how are you, sir? Good to see you, buddy. I hope everybody's having a good day. It's been a busy week. It's been a good week, very productive week. This is page number 241 since the start of this year for the one-page story stuff. More going on than that, but busy in a tizzy. So I was just trying out some things. Sometimes you just got to make a mess in order to make something come out of that you're going to be able to work with. Empty. Full of juice. All right. So just checking what I've got handy for brushes. I had drawn some pages before, and I was just, hold on a second, let me switch cameras. I was just throwing watercolor on top of these little illustrations I did. Sometimes you do something, you put it aside, and you do nothing with it. Pick it up, make a mess on it, throw it aside again. That's my secret. And we'll see what comes out of that. Okay, let's get down to business. So this is today's page. Oh, Chris is joining us. Hiya. Oh, that's super cool, Frank. That is super cool. I hope you have a good time, buddy. Hi, Chris. How are you? How's everything going? It's Friday. You know what that means. Not only have you got the weekend ahead of you, you got less teaching to do today. Probably got a lot of marking, though. No kidding. Okay, so today's page. Yeah, that's where I was. Today's page, the suggestion was a long one. The suggestion was sky splitting open, an army on horseback coming out while people on the ground are looking up at it. It's a big, long one-page idea. The original art for this is up on my Patreon. I'll give you a quick peek, though, because you guys are so well behaved. So there's the original art for this. It's really not any different at all than what you see in the finished image. The finished image just has that lovely border work put on there. And, let's take it a little bit farther. But one of the things I talked about in this page is that you want to get the main beats of a story, especially in a story suggestion that is so verbose. Sky opens up, army on horseback comes riding out, people looking up at it. So there's 3 panels alone, right? But what we've actually introduced in an additional way is the perspective of the city by having the text track that way. It's more about the affectation of big army in the sky over top of people. And on top of that, we rip the sky open above a city. And then the criticism that happens at the end, where the real issue at hand here is just going to clean up after that whole bunch of horses riding across there. And it's going to be a field of road apples. One of the things we call them in Canada here. Okay, what else? 1 class to go today. 26 composition tasks to grade tonight. Oh my goodness! I'm sorry, Chris. That's a lot of grading. Good, bad. No, I know you're not going to do that. Cool horses. Why? Thank you. Frankly says horsey. That's how I read it. I read emojis like they're words because I'm deep like that. Okay, so we got some more suggestions in here in the old Bookaroonie. But today's suggestion was from somebody named Scott Card, who doesn't have an Instagram presence, but his wife does. So I'm hoping that Scott sees that through her. And because that'd be fun. So we got a couple suggestions at hand. One is dogfights. Another one is time-lapse of a one-page story's creation. Another one is the day we met. So there's some fun ones on our docket. No, there's lots more than that. This is just the top three that or the first three that I just found. Oh, there's Pangea or Sinister Minister from Westminster. So many choices. This is good, though. This is good stuff. We're in the process of trying to figure out some stuff for the London Con that's coming up and trying to get all the talent that we had lined up. We're trying to get a hold of doing for artists or falling apart because artists are fickle, silly monsters. And so we're trying to work that out. But at the same time, Cat Butler, World Domination, is another one. One page on Corbin, that's another one. I'm finding all kinds of them. I've been writing them on Post-its and stick it in the old book of Mooning here. So I've got no real specific to it. So let's do. I don't know. Let's do time lapse, I guess. What do we got? Unless anybody in the stream here has a preference. If you have a preference, let me know of any of the stuff that I've listed. Because I'm kind of open, you know. It's not that I have a lack of what am I going to work on. It's more of a case of let's involve people. What do we got? Cat Domination starring Corbin. Okay. Decided. I'm doing a lot of cat stuff lately. Is this working yet? Nope, no robot. Ah, stupid Kendall. Yeah, anyways, doesn't matter. Okay, so World Domination, Cat Butler, World Domination starring Corbin. That's what we're going with. And Nico, my cat. What's your cat look like? Yeah, send me a picture. Or have you got a picture out there already? I'll look up your picture. We'll start with Corbin. Corbin. Today's listening is the Presidents of the United States of America. That's the band I'm listening to today. Fantastically awesome name to give a moment. Really good, guys. Okay, so I've got no specifics on what I was going to work in today. No decision. Really, no decisions on that at all. So let's I don't know. Let's just use a white piece of paper. How's that sound? That sounds great, Chris. Boy, I'm glad you like that idea. There's so much stuff going on right now. Silliness will ensue. Cat says, if a message one, it's a Siamese. Ooh, very cool. Yeah, send me one on Instagram and I'll incorporate that in. Okay. Yeah, keep listening. You're very loud. Very loud, the Funka Rocky, huh? All right. So, listen, I haven't been doing. Let's get things switched around here. Let's get the right camera on. Yep, there we are. So, I haven't been doing a lot of book showing this week. I just wanted to sort of get back on track for myself here, and focus less on that than I have been. So, I think today we're going to do our page in pencil crayon. What's buzzing? Why are you buzzing? Oh, okay, I got your picture, Chris. Okay, here's our start. It's easy as that. Okay, so Chris has just sent a picture of her cat, and her cat is now going to be put into a story. So, yeah, I've still got all the books, though. If people, of course I've got all the books, but I've still got lots of books if people are interested in seeing some stuff. If there's anything specific, any kinds of books that you'd like to get a look at, if there's anything that might help in whatever visual journey you're on right now, if you could see something like that, or let's call it the Inspirado, let me know. In the words of the immortal Lionel Richie, I'm easy like Sunday morning. I'm easy like Sunday morning. The song's pretty stuck in my head now. I said it myself, and the song's pretty stuck in my head. Okay, so this is Nico. I'm going to write it down. Corbin, Nico's. Nico, boy or girl? That's not right color, right? Uh-oh, everybody behave. It's Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Today we are doing world domination. Cat Butler world domination. And we're going to star Corbin and Nico. So I'm just being all picky and choosy. And grabbing some diamonds. And let's get crack lacking. All right. Hope your day's going well, Barbara. So today's page was a lot of fun that I posted. Drawn some horsies. Horses were one of those things that I used to think were really complex until I stopped looking at them for complexity. And I started looking at them as just shapes. The horse is just a bunch of shapes like anything else. And once I did that, I think it became easier to draw horses. Cats, horses, motorcycles, all of the above. But depending on your perspective on things, literally opens up or closes your ability to work on those things. So as long as you can remain receptive and open-minded to stuff, you should be able to engage in most things. So who we've got? Oh, Chris has joined us. Uh-oh, everybody behave. Hi, Jim. Okay, so we've got a Cat Butler bent on world domination is our idea today. And so I'm going to open with Nico and have Nico tell us what's going down. And, you know, you sort of have to have a narrative choice. And oftentimes in those narrative choices that we make, we can sort of vacillate, just spin around in circles trying to figure out what to do and how to go about it. Or we can just start throwing together a picture of a cat. And it's a rather lovely looking cat. So that's a great place to start. Now, global domination story. Oh, you know. What are the odds? Let's take some odds. What are the odds that I'm going to do this in a very serious tone? Not very high. By the way, Nico cannot meow. His voice is literally purr. Purr. Okay. So I'm just breaking down Nico as shapes to start with. Rather than worrying too much about drawing Nico, I'm just drawing shapes. But Nico is going to be our narrative voice through this. And I'm going to use that loophole of cats don't speak human to get around Nico's inability to meow. But we'll try to find some fun way to incorporate that. So, has anybody got any questions about anything, or is there anything that anybody would like to see from the library? Any type of book or anything like that? Let me know. Has anybody got any grand plans for the upcoming weekend? In Canada, it's a long weekend. I don't know if it's a long weekend for everybody or not. I don't pay enough attention to those things. But it's also Lori's birthday. So we're going to buy her a pony or a canoe. I don't know that, I don't know if it'd be interested in a pony or a canoe. Maybe a Panu or a Coney. So this looks a little weird. I'm just wanting to show a different way of going about building the structure and doing it in it's a sort of linear fashion, but at the same time, it's more of a just putting those large broad shapes in there. So if one were to look at this in the sense of bringing it down as colors, these little spatial areas, these sections, could be divided up. Could be divided up into 1, 2, so on and so forth for those color by number kits. There's a song by the band Primus. How does this fit in anything, Chris? Bear with me. There's a song by the band Primus called Tommy the Cat. And it's literally a song about an alley cat. And it starts with one of the funniest lines. And I remember as if it were a long, tall meal ago. It just cracks me up. I think I have a video of him speaking. I'll try to send it. The volume might be very low. Oh, cool. Happy early birthday to Lori. Happy birthday to Lori. That's very nice. I'll pass all these happy birthdays on to her. That's very nice, you guys. You guys are all so sweet. I watched a really disturbing video this morning. And really annoyed me. I didn't save it, or I didn't, leave it up on my computer. And we went to take the van in to get an oil change and one of our headlights fixed, etc. But I can't remember what it was called because I would really use this as a warning of don't go there for people. But it was all about when you've got people watching, because I'm trying to figure out how to do this better for everybody. How can I make this experience better for people tuning into my humanity? And it was talking about, and this is what disturbed me. It started talking about if you've got people that are joining you on things, and and you say, "Hey, look, I spilled some water," and everybody goes, "Oh no!" Or in this case, I say, "Hey, it's Laura's birthday," and everybody says, "Happy birthday," because you guys are all nice people. What this video talked about was to capitalize on that, to take advantage of that with the people that are tuning into your streams. And how can you turn that into marketing and dollars, which is not exactly what I was looking for. I'm just trying to look for how can I make this overall experience be the most that it can be for anybody that's tuning in to watch this goofball. And that really bugged me. It just really bugged me that everything, because in my headspace, people feel free to input if you think I might be off here, because there's always a good chance Chris is off. But in my headspace, it is an absolute grace that people want to connect with one another and chat openly here and talk about art and learn about different art things together as we do. Because I've learned a lot in this process. But the idea of capitalizing on every facet of engagement with other people for economic return really annoyed me. Now, I've come across some videos recently and video appearances by people on channels of other people that I know, where they talk about how much money they make through A, B, C, D, or E. And I just find that it's one thing to say, hey, when people are supportive and encouraging or want to help out economically, that's lovely. That's really lovely because it makes the journey easier and so on and so forth when you don't have to concern yourself with those things. But to reduce everything down to How can I turn money out of these people's pockets? Just bug me, you know. As is per usual, Christopher May will be very naive. He's been known to be that. But it just felt like, here's how you get some money out of them, you know, and I did not like that. So I wish I could remember the name of this video, because I would tell you, don't be this. Don't be like that. Don't be that person. It's no different than were a person to be selling Kirby vacuums or some other pyramid scheme. It's the best vacuum I've ever owned. Well, it's a good vacuum. It's a vacuum. People's Kirby and the vacuums in your house has changed their lives. It's a vacuum. Their house got clean. That's how it changed it. You know. But that's what this sort of marketing does for people. I don't know how others feel on that, but I just thought, that's lame-o. But it says things like, so in regard to what, I said, it's Lori's birthday, because I'm very proud of her, and it's very nice of people to say happy birthday and pass that on to her. But, then the person would say in this video, so now that they know that there's, what do they call it? A call to need. A need that you've called out, a call out. That's what it was, a call out for your needs. Then you say, and there's all kinds of presents she'd want. Why do that? Why put that on other people? Lori wants a new toaster oven. She doesn't. She doesn't at all. Our toaster oven is fine. Lori wants a pony. Maybe she wants a sailboat. On those rational expenses. I'm going to buy my wife a sailboat this weekend. What? If that's some noble pursuit you've been saving up for a while, that's one thing. But if it's just buy somebody a sailboat, yeesh. All right, so I'm drawing Chris's cat here. This is Nico. And I got Peter Gabriel stuck in my head. Where are we at? Am I missing stuff? I'm probably missing stuff. Hi, Christopher. Hi, Joshua. How you doing? Get her one. Hello. Get her one. Here's a sailboat, Laurie. Nope. We live in London, Ontario, Canada. We're nowhere near water. We're 45 minutes away from the closest port that goes on to a Great Lake. I mean, even that water is surrounded by ground. Great Lakes are big, but they're still, it's not like the ocean or something. Okay, so putting Nico in, I just rough laid out all of these little pieces of information. I just like the idea of, as soon as this picture came in, I like the idea of a narrator who is hiding in long grass. For some reason, that's really captivating to me. So anyway, here's what happened. There's a couple of films that I remember where in said films, there's always a character that'll be bushes or something. Listen, you gotta go that way. I love that. There was Get Smart. They did a remake of Get Smart, and as he's walking up, the flap in a tree opens. He goes, "Hey, how you doing, 38?" And it's Bill Murray as the guard post guy who's hiding as a tree. Just ridiculous, but I love stuff like that. Peter Gabriel, gotta love him. Did you name your cat after Nico by Peter Gabriel? Doesn't Ken have the most waterfront properties in the world? Seriously? Probably does. Oh, In Your Eyes. There's a good Gabriel song. J Boys. That means Josh and Jim are in his house. It probably does with all of our lakes, but it's still not like if you go in that boat, you're gonna stop somewhere within the day, right? Whereas in other, all the people that live along coastlines to our oceans, they go in their boat, they're going for a while. So that's all I mean by that. I don't like it. I don't like that color. He knows I don't like it. He knows what he did. But I'll end up bringing it back in because, yeah. So Pennsylvania today, ladies and gentlemen. Has anybody got stuff that they're working on that they want to tell anybody else about? Is there any kind of... I got a couple of books in mind if anybody wants to see them. Really? My mom named the cat. Oh, that's nice. I named my one cat who's sitting here beside me. I can show you her in cat cam. Hold on. Cat cam! Cat cam! Cat cam! There she is. That's Baby. Baby, say hi. You say hi? Baby's 14. And, yeah. I named her Baby because I'm all about dichotomy. And I am a gorilla-sized person who has a cute, tiny little kitty. And despite her being... That's pencil. That's it, isn't it? And despite, calling her baby and she's cute and tiny and all that stuff, she'll kick a butt. She's an excellent mouser. But she's got a gorilla-sized owner who's a big old softie. So that's why we named her Baby. Hi. I'm going to move you closer. Oh, there you go. Nice to see you. My name Corbin, because I told the kids we could only adopt this as second cat if I could name it Bruce Willis, which I had no intention of doing. And then one of the kids noticed that the cat's name was Corbin on the rescue cage, and we just watched Fifth Element, so now I got a cat named Corbin. I'm painting the same photo of Nico using gouache. Nice. Gouache. There's a History of Illustration channel that I like to watch. There's an Englishman who says, this artist also used gouache. And he calls it gouache every time. How you doing, Seven? Welcome aboard. Fantastic. Okay. It's not often you end up adopting a cat because you threaten to name it Bruce Willis. But that's our story in this instance. Okay, so the first panel, my intention here, I'd like to sort of let people know what's going on in Christopher's mind. My first thought here is to have this cat narrate for us what the happenstance of our story is going to be. And in this case, he's going to be telling us that, Corbin's efforts towards global domination and how all that comes about. And he's going to be our testifier to it. He's going to be a witness to that. So, by establishing a voice to the story at the onset, sort of just takes away some of our thinking, because immediately now our brain is going to start putting it together as Baby's not in the corner. She's right beside me. Ready? Cat cam! Cat cam! There she is. See? Directly beside me. Baby, old man. Baby, old man. She's staring me down. Hey, you could feed me my sixth meal today. The girl likes to eat. I'm not saying that as a judgment. Okay, so if you identifiably in your storytelling process, if the script calls for the narrator to be a specific voice, right off the hop, if there's a narrator for a story, right off the hop, you've got some decision making that's already happened, because it frees you up to look at the perspective of a story through a certain lens, a certain vantage point. And that can be really liberating. So when we're putting Nico down here as our narrator for what's going to occur for the rest of the story, because I've got it from this perspective, I can play on that. I can push that along. Okay, I got a couple things I want to show you. Let me just get to that now. All right, babe, just one second. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight for a moment. What the heck is it? This is the problem of looking at something from my desk and then standing up to walk over and get it. Is that I forgot where I saw it. Okay, so I've got a couple books here that I'm going to bring over. And one is Rupert. And I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with Rupert, but here's 3 different takes on something. And, well, actually, it's going to be 6 different takes on something. Bear with me. Now, this is Jack Kirby's Artisan Edition of the Fantastique Four. So what these are is that I saw this at the store that I used to work at, and I actually went, because it sold like right away, and so whenever that happens, I would generally go to, because if I try to order it in, half the time it never came in. So, I went and ordered this online. I think it's this one. It's this one. I have another one of these. No, this is the one that I ordered before it came out, and another one I ordered after it had gone through the shop. So this is one I ordered before it came out. But this is Jack Kirby and the Fantastic Four books that he did at Marvel. Now, this isn't like number 1, number 2, number 3. These are just a bunch of different adventures. And they're fantastic. I mean, there's just now his perspective is crazy, and his proportions are crazy. And there's something about the structure in all of their faces that are very much, very comic booky. But and this is the original art, by the way. These are the original pages scanned. So you will see blue line, or like around all the lettering there, and pencil notes at the top, and written notes for production. And you'll see these fantastic faded sections. The reason that this faded section is here is because that is where they would paste over the publishing indicia. And over time, that glue dries and it peels off, right? And then you see the lettering that's put on here. And if you see these little white areas with what looks like a line around them, it's because somebody's had to put up a new piece of letter over top of that. So this is the pencil work or the ink work as well, for early Fantastic Four pages. Now, see the holes that somebody's punched into these to save in a binder? Or, I'm sorry, no, these are registration holes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 for the process, for holding them static in place so that they're all the same size of image being taken. So this is his original work. See the whiteout over there? That is, I guess, he just ain't got no couth. There's a whiteout line there, and he just is put over top it. So it said something else. So maybe it's the character's name. Who knows what it was? Kids collapsing. It must have been too much for her is added in as well. So it's all these little corrections and stuff that go along the way that I find to be really interesting. And so with that, you can see some of the decision-making just in the processes of creation. So all of this stuff would be done before it was colored. Before, like this, so you got your drawing, your lettering, or your drawing, your inking, your lettering. Oftentimes it would go drawing off to the letterer. The letterer puts the balloons in and gives it over to the inker, who then goes around and does the rest of the inking process on it. It's really elaborate. And oftentimes you'll see some of these old creators that would do it all themselves. But because of it being a corporate entity, there's this whole process that one had to go through. But when you see the crazy raw visualization of Kirby, it's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I've got another one of these that I bought at the store by another artist named Mazzucchelli that I'll show people. But very different style. But this is the reason that his proportions and his dimensions are so stretched out is that it's pure dynamism. He's not worried about everything being beautiful and pretty. He's worried about the storytelling of it, right? So when you see this crazy, this robot is shot two lasers. It's protruded two lasers out of its face, whether those were its eyes or it's just they're coming out of its mouth. It doesn't. It looks like they're coming out of its mouth. It doesn't matter. It's just crazy, pure visionary way of doing something. But there it is getting sucked into space, so it's lost its footing and it's sort of trying to resist it, hence its arms being like that. Now it's trying to claw itself from being sucked into this machine. It doesn't work. There he goes, sucked into this crazy space. And, and then we go to these passive moments, but here you got one of the guys knocked out in the ground. It's all so interesting to me because it's such a unique vision, such a unique style. Again, everything isn't perfect, but it perfectly tells the story. So this, you see a lot of type in the gutters because this is Kirby suggesting here's what they're saying and here's what's happening in the panels. So, Chris, smile. Wow, great. Yeah, there's a lot of fun. Cool stuff. Yeah. So this is Kirby. And then Kirby did these paste ups. Now, I'm going to block the one camera for a second. I think. Maybe not. The paste ups is where he's actually doing photo collage and incorporating it in the comic book. Here's the original penciled art and inked art with the text on it. And then there is his photo collage work to make this surreal alternate space. And he introduced this in the comics. Why comics didn't continue with it, really, I don't know. Because that's just fantastic. Look at this character, look at this crazy. I still couldn't tell you what the deal is with this guy. He's kind of a bug in a robot suit, or maybe this is a carapace. You really don't quite know, but it really doesn't quite matter. So this is Kirby. This is a fantastic book. The ISBN is 978-1-68405-836-5. Now, the next book is New York. Now, New York I picked up at Chapters. This is Olivier Bretin. Bretin, I ordered all these books through the store called Infinity 8. And Bretin's one of the artists on those. I really like Bretin's style of art. I really do. I don't know if I've shown this before or not. But this is about this prehistoric world of, tribal people living in their tribal ways and building up their society. And it's really beautifully illustrated. And they have their superstitions and stuff like that. But then you find out the Elder's hut harbored an incredible jumble of strange objects from the city of gods. And you go in there, there's a bicycle, there's a ceiling fan, there's a bunch of bottles, there's a guitar, there's a lantern. So immediately it sets you up for introducing you to this primitivism of our principal characters and then informing you that it's a post-apocalyptic story. And, here he is walking across a pipe over this primordial landscape. So, and then he has to make the big journey to go and find the Elder. And the big journey takes him to the city of the gods. It's pretty great stuff. And so, of course, the great mystery is what made the world this way. And so it makes you want to read. It makes you want to follow it through. And it makes you want to follow it through because you are immersed in this early story type of there's these primitive people, and wow, that's really cool, and seeing how the world works from their perspective, etc. And then it introduces you to the left turn, which sort of says, no, it's a post-apocalyptic book, and his kid's about to return to that world. And then there's those little things like a hologram personal guide to the mall, that shows up as he goes into this. He doesn't understand it's a mall, Anyhow, it goes on and on and on and on. Fire of the gods, so on and so forth. How did the world get to be this way? We find out along the way. But it's really exciting, and I really enjoy this. I really enjoy Olivia Bettine's work. New York. Has anybody figured out what New York stands for yet? 978-1-50670-369-5. Okay, and the last one I want to show you is probably a book that, in all honesty, had the biggest impact on me in storytelling. And I'll explain why. When I was a kid, I loved reading Rupert books. It's one of the things that we had access to when I was young, before I started going to the school library as a kid. And then when I went to the school library at the elementary school that I went to, they had some Rupert books, and I would constantly sign those out. Graduated up into the Smurfs, and into Asterix and Obelix, and to Tintin. But it all started with Rupert. But Rupert did something really, really interesting. These are the Rupert annuals, which collected a number of individual Rupert stories that were published sequentially in alternate forms, but they were collected as annuals, okay? Each year. For years and years and years they did this. But what I really enjoyed about Rupert is this. Rupert and Dragon Dance. Okay, now each page has these little top illustrations. And these little top illustrations are key moments of story. This is the key takeaway character emotions, or the key takeaway people of interest on each page. Okay? 1. 2, the visual storytelling that you see here. I'm going to switch to this page, these pages over here, just because with the big splash intro page, it's confusing. All right, so there's that. Rupert has an idea. There's Rupert. Oh, I wonder what it is. Oh, there's this Rupert. Anyways, so then we've got our story as told just pictorially. Okay? Then we've got our story told through the dialogues, and how the dialogues work in relationship to the story. So there's your comic book part of it. Okay? Now, the dialogue, because it's put in this sort of prose form as opposed to put in word balloons, is the only transitional change from a traditional children's comic book or sequential. It's all sequential literature. But then we've got pure text of the story itself. So you can read the story in all of these different ways. It's the same story. But when you read all of it together, this is enhanced by this. These are enhanced by this. This is just little notes on top of the grand piece on the piano. And all of the Rupert stories are this way. Now, they don't just stick to the uniform 4. They'll break out into 2s, right? They'll break out into 3-panel pages or 2-panel pages, I've seen at times. But this is the format that runs through all of the Rupert books. And at the top of each page, is that final story part where this is what the gist of this page is. So for those kids that when you say, what's the story we're reading about, to check and see how their comprehension is going for the story that you're reading to them, or how their comprehension is going for what they might be reading themselves. Kids will often do this. They'll assess it here. Oh, he sees a piper. There's a guy playing a pipe. He's on his dragon, and there's a guy playing a pipe. That's what kids will do, right? There's Rupert following him into the cave, So that's the gist of the page. There's your little notes. There's what the piece is. And then there's your different aspects and how all of these parts work together. And so as a kid, reading this as my first sort of introduction into to having a real understanding of storytelling, it was right here. It was Rupert all the way. Rupert the White Bear. Now, there's no sense out of the fact that there are characters that are actual children, that are toy people, that are anamorphic people, like people that are animals that are behaving as normal people. There is magical creatures, like here's a talking tree, right? There's no rhyme or reason to how any of that works. What any of the laws, the foundational laws of how the Rupert world works, doesn't matter. They're pure stories for children. But the imagination of these stories is phenomenal. If you haven't read, if you've never come across Rupert before, this is a nursery of babies in cribs up in the boughs of these trees. This is a tree house, hence the stairs. You walk up to the top, and this is where the nanny takes care of them all. And meanwhile, the other trees that are around there have faces on them, and you're laughing and having a great old time. It doesn't. There's the man in the moon. Little Bo Peep. She's lost her sheep. And he must really be Bo Peep. It's like, here's the saucer and spoon, here's the egg. Like, he's walking into the lands of fantasy. Rupert discovers a shortcut. Rupert returns to the castle. Rupert falls asleep. There he is, counting sheep. There's so many amazing ideas in these. So many amazing ideas in these that just going through Rupert, and this is where Rupert and Bill are pretending to be pirates. They find a note in a bottle. They go to see the local captain. Again, is a normal dude, right? And then he shows them a statue. It's probably the front part of the boat, but there's Neptune. There's Rupert's parents. Like, it's just... And of course, they go off on real adventures with real pirates. Like, it's stream of consciousness writing. It's just keep following the story. See where the story takes you. You know, the pirate's captain quit the sea. These old clothes are no use to me. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the last part. This is it's all rhyming couplets, the prose part. I forgot to mention that part. So, and then there's this. The occasional, hey, spot the differences. Or, you know, try to guess the letters for each of these suggestions and put them in the panels and see who it actually is suggesting about who the character is it's trying to name. There's a crossword puzzle. There's paint your own picture, right? And this is why I like codes, by the way, is growing up reading Rupert and all the codes that they would put into books. This is a substitution code. It's each letter is a number, and you just substitute the numbers in the code, and you put the corresponding letter of 1 to 26 for the English language, and then there you go. So anyhow, and then you get into the next story. And in between every book in between every adventure is more of the crafts and fun. So Rupert had a massive, massive impact. John Harold's art's fantastic. But this had a massive, massive impact on me growing up. So that's our 3 books for today, folks. Now, I would give you the ISBN for Rupert, but it's not going to make a lick of difference. You're going to have, these are old books. If you want to try to find them, they're going to, 1-874-507-60-0. I am always looking for Rupert books. We ever go anywhere near an antique bookstore, I want to see if there's Rupert. It's one of those things that I regularly check for. But I treasure that book. It's the kind of thing that, when you have something that makes an impact on you like that, it's the kind of thing that you want to keep around. So, okay, back to the scribbly doodly. Good books. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, check out Rupert if you've never seen it before. It was adapted into quite a few different languages. But it's one of those. It's one of those things that it's almost like a master class in approaching story in different ways. And it's one of those things that helping to open up my headspace to look at story in different approaches. And good books are good books, folks. There's no point in not sharing them. We want to keep books alive, and we want people to be able to have access to those and to find, hopefully for themselves, that connection of that thing that we ourselves love. There's a serious part of me that is some degree of concern. What is the future of communication in our world? What is the future of literature in our world, where we have more and more adaptation of technology into our lives, and its impact on young people that's taken them away from actually learning how to read, right? Now, I personally, and you can please let me know your perspective on this, because it may very well be biased, but I personally am concerned about reading, and I think that sequential literature is perhaps the solution to this problem. If we've got a generation of people, and we already have a generation of people in Canada that can't, an entire generation of people in Canada that cannot write in cursive. They cannot sign their names. And when you've got to sign your names on XYZ, that's a problem. But we've already made some stupid decisions in this country that to stop teaching cursive in Canada. Now there's digital signatures, Chris. Yeah. It's not looking good. They have reading comprehension issues at university. Oh, that's terrible to hear. I thank you for saying it, but it's terrible to hear. So I think that if we can, and this is something weird, if we can trick all these kids, and I'm using that word trick deliberately, I tricked my kids in their reading. Rather than going through this whole, oh, for goodness sakes, you got to read something for school, you got to read some. What I used to do, specifically with my oldest, I had a really hard time getting her to read. And she's going to be 32 this year, so this is just at the advent of things like Tamagotchi. But that was already enough technology to completely distract her. So what I would do is that I would pick out classic literature pieces, and I would find adaptations of those in sequential medium. And we would go through and read the comics together, and I would work on developing that reading skill with her. And then I would pick up and read along with her the actual textual pieces of these classic pieces, the actual classic literature, some adaptation there enough. And through that, well, now she's exposed to Little Women or the Iliad or whatever it is, and we've made it into something that she now has ownership of. And that is the method that I use, horrible, terrible monster that I am, to get my daughter to read. Now, each of the kids is different in their own way. Each of the kids all have their different strengths and weaknesses. So some of them, it was less manipulative behavior on my part. But Chris says, the students wrote the papers I just evaluated like text messages, no punctuation, spelling issues. Oh my gosh, that's not great. I'm sorry. I get people telling me that I use unnecessary words. Or as I jokingly call it, my over-extrapolated vernacular. And I'm afraid that we're losing comprehension of words. Now, bearing in mind, we're not all English first. I appreciate that, and I apologize. But it really does concern me when, as a whole, we're reducing everything down to the simplest term and the simplest term only. While there's a societal precedent that has always done that, it still doesn't change the fact that we're losing a great deal of things. Parents give phones to their kids as young as 2. What? Smack that parent. Don't let anybody see you do it. But why'd you hit this person? Chris told me to. And who's Chris? This guy. Yeah, that's disappointing. My oldest grandchild is 12, and she petitioned to have her first phone this year. And it is touch and go on how long that phone stays in her hand when she's over here. It is a touch and go scenario. Okay, so right now I'm drawing in Nico, and then Nico will be followed up by the exploits of Corbin. And the beginning of the revolution. I don't use black when I go grocery shopping. I see kids with phones. You just slap those phones out of those kids. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Definitely don't tell people I told you to do. He's learning. An earplug or ear pod, whatever they are. Oh yeah, it's messing his kids up. It's an adaptation period. Here's a fun fact. Fun facts with Christopher Huntsman. Okay, fun fact. In the Victorian era, in the Edwardian era, with the proliferation of the print type and how it became far more accessible for people to get copies of books. During the Edwardian era, and as we went directly into the Victorian era, there was a thing called the reading sickness. And it's where we sort of tipped the cup so that enough young people were being educated in how to read. And at least in the, the more affluent classes. And I'm stopping calling them upper classes anymore because affluent classes doesn't mean they're above anybody. They're generally dipsticks. But in those more affluent classes of people, you could have far more people learning how to read on the daily basis. And they would walk around with these books, reading and not doing boring and practical things as the preceding generation was consumed by, because they had to be. It's called survival. And so they called it the reading sickness, and it was a real concern and a real problem societally. And they were trying to come up with solutions for the reading sickness. Reading. We're talking about, girls reading poetry or young Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein at 19. Like, we're talking about that kind of a thing. It's a sickness. It's destroying our youth. So it's all about adaptation, is my point. It's just, you can't lose certain parts of things. If everything is given to you textually and visually, it doesn't make you try to discern what's true and what isn't. Like if we allow the progression of things as they go, then eventually you won't read anything online. It'll just be purely whatever visual stuff is flashed before your eyes. And so in the future, will anybody read anything? And they're grossly overweight. Yeah, there's a problem with sedentary lifestyle with a lot of young people. You know what? We're all different sizes and different shapes. I have a bigger problem with attitude. I have a bigger problem with some of the attitude that these kids exhibit with their parents. I'm like, are you kidding me? The doing of nothing is always a bad thing. Students hated that this writing was paper-based, no help of phone, laptop, or smartwatch. Ouch. You know what would be even more of a nightmare for them is if you made them handwrite it. Not just paper-based, where, yes, of course, they're writing, but, You can't print it out on paper. It has to be hand cranked, and that would kill kids. Kill that. Or you get, like Chris is saying, that she's getting from her students with lack of punctuation. A friend of mine is, his job is at a university here in London, where he helps young people formulate their thesis and get their theses, anyways. Each of them to get their own thesis. How's that? There's a way around it. Together for submittance in order to get their next stage up, masters, doctorates, whatever it is. And the amount of procrastination notwithstanding, the absolute inability to work without so much of it done for them, like the type checking and grammar and how do you frame and your paper, your argument, how do you the way that the use of terms and words is diminishing, and this is at the university level, which makes me wonder, why do people pay so much for some universities? No, not everybody is. I'm not saying everybody in university is bad. I'm just wondering, how do we get ourselves in this predicament where kids at the university level can't read or spell, and they're writing doctorates? What? Anyways, that's a secret. Don't tell anybody I told you that. I'm not going to say his name. Well, they all come in asking for extensions. Always. Constant. Why do you need an extension? I haven't had a chance to work on it yet. 2 years. 2 years into writing a thesis, and they haven't worked on it yet. I never did post-secondary education. It's just not economically viable for me. But even I know, good Lord. Oh, it's handwritten. Man. In Mexico, the government invented an exam that graduates students. It's 6 hours long. They don't write a thesis anymore. What? What level of graduation are we talking about? Are we just talking about general university diplomas? Or are we talking about higher, master's, doctorates? Like that's terrible. That's the whole point of going to that place, is higher education, the expectation of a higher level of education, just making it easier for them. Make it more accommodating so that the universities can be accommodated. Ching, 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 dollar, dollar bill. I've witnessed firsthand numerous professors going into places and gleaning all that they can off of those that are, in the know, working in that field, and then going to the schools and just regurgitating the things that they just heard, as though it was informed fact on their part, beyond going to talk to somebody working. There's a media studies professor at the local university here in London. He doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground, but he goes and teaches media. Terrible. Let me tell you about this course is specifically around comics, and it's all regurgitated garbage that he's heard from somebody else. He goes in there, and these kids are paying all of this money for that. It's absurd. System's broken, folks. Hi, Miriam. How are you? Masters and doctors, not yet, but the lower ones have this exam. They can pass with a minimum score and be graduates. Ouch. Well, power to them. But they're getting what they're getting. If your takeaway is all of this money spent for an education that you're not walking out the door with, that was your decision. Like when I was in high school, I went to a special program called BLR. And it used to be a separate building from the school, and it had real artists, like exhibiting artists in galleries that would be the educators. And I don't I don't know how much of that's the case now because I know some of the people teaching there, and just different levels of things here. But some of them are really talented. Some of them, you know, they're good teachers, and sometimes good teachers outweigh good artists. You just used to have to be both, which is a really tricky thing to maintain, by the way. But when I was there, my point is that so many of these people that I went to school with, we had an art library at BLR. And it was all books about art and artists. And I would spend a fair amount of time in that room. And I was always staggered by how many people just were completely oblivious that it existed. Chris says, the job market does not have space for all of them. It's common to see Uber drivers with master's degrees or higher. See, that's so unfortunate. I'm always advocating people away from specific jobs if I'm given the chance to do so. And that is, don't go get a degree in graphic design. Don't do it. Don't go get a degree in media studies or liberal arts or any of that nonsense. Save your own money and get a library card. Now, certain positions, the problem with the marketplace is that it thinks it needs some sort of accreditation to have people in job positions. And the problem with that is that they might have gone to school, they might have been able to regurgitate facts and figures very well, but it doesn't mean they have any insights into what they're doing. But that's common in all things. What are we at? Hour 8. Companies don't pay for master's degrees. If we can get someone with a technical degree and not a university one, they're hiring them first. Really? Nice. Now with AI getting rid of lots of positions, it'll be harder for the generations that are studying at university now. Well, maybe this is controversial, and Chris, I really respect you, but maybe we don't need universities anymore. I'm not saying this because Chris is here, but Chris seems to be a real, she's a real teacher, and that's really encouraging. That's why I just don't make a blanket statement that maybe we don't need universities, period. Or I'm sorry that that's asking as a question and not just make it as a statement. We don't need universities. There's a great deal of people that it's an income. A great deal of people with passions for it, but I don't think people recognize like they used to that being a teacher is a sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice to being a teacher. You're teaching other people's young people to go out into the world. There's a lot of responsibility in that. I know I got a lot of weird colors in this. I realize that. Now with AI getting, okay, yeah. AI VR technology. Remember when VR first popped around and everybody was in a panic about VR because our eyes and our minds are going to be over inundated with all this VR imagery that's going to be in everything in just a couple of years. So that when you walk down the street, you're going to be barraged with product placements and things like that. We still haven't done it. Now it's AI. AI is going to ruin everything. Hot button topic. We are foolish, foolish monkeys. We invent things that are cause for our own demise and disrepair. And we blanket those things in terms. Nuclear deterrent. It's a bomb. It's a bomb. Political correctness, my statement isn't on anything specific about that. It's just the term political correctness. This is the correct way to be. Ouch. Teachers are to disappear in 10 years at college or junior high. AI will be helping with self-study. No need for us at university. That's sad. And the reason I find that so sad is that when we don't have people teaching people on how to inform themselves to make decisions, when we have things that can be programmed informing people how to make decisions. Now, humans can be programmed too. There's an awful lot of regurgitation to get to the point to be able to do it, educate that way. But when we lose the ability for people to discern good and bad, right and wrong, how do I evaluate this situation or this thing, and to just allow them to be informed of what those things are through technology, I'm giving up a lot there. Okay, I'm going to hold this up in a second. Okay, there's a lot of crazy colors going on here. But that's kind of how I like to work. I like to build it up. What am I missing? The good thing or bad is that in Mexico, the students are lazy. So does that mean they're not going to get programmed by the machines? The common education system was built because of the Industrial Revolution. It was implemented because with the complexity of the pneumatic machines and the complexity of a lot of the things that were being invented and put out into the world, into the open market, people needed to have a better, basic understanding of how to run those devices. That was why it was cost effective to teach the general populace more so than those that had more accommodation. Otherwise, the lower, economic individuals would never ever be afforded the opportunity to learn. Because that way, if they don't know, they can't rise above their station. Hence, not a problem. You start teaching people, the moment hopefully people start thinking. The agitated youth generally start at the education centers. Look at what's going on now in, what is the island outside of China? that they're trying to reincorporate. Is it Hong Kong? They're trying to reincorporate back into China forcefully, because not everybody there wants to be part of China. They see themselves as separate. When the Chinese Civil War was happening, those that were on the one side went to Hong Kong. Those that won the Civil War stayed on the mainland. That sentiment wouldn't have changed that much in this little amount of time. Here, people used to have at least 2 degrees. This is in Israel, everybody that hasn't had a chance to meet Miriam yet. Here, people used to have at least 2 degrees, and good job then. Yeah. They want to be told what to do in class. This is Chris talking about Mexico, and they blame teachers for failing, never accept responsibility, and never study on their own. So we might not be replaced soon. The drawing's looking great. Thanks, Chris. My education was from the library. That's where I could afford an education. It's a library card and some late fees. You know, they don't even charge late fees here in London anymore, because it's just the people, because they recognize in London specifically, the majority of people that are getting books out of the library to read and media out of the library in order to engage with are not people that can afford late fees. The reason that they're utilizing the library system is because they can't afford these things outside of it. And so somewhere along the lines, somebody who had a heart of gold made the decision to stop charging late fees, because it's the library benefiting off the people that can afford it the least. And I'm pretty pleased with that. It's pretty impressive. So I know that this is a Siamese cat that has more white to it, but I'm having some fun. Since I did the picture of Lori's dad, I've had people saying that they'd be interested in me doing some portrait work for him. As much as I appreciate that, it really isn't what I want to do anymore. I used to do that. Anybody who's been in portrait work knows you can get some really kooky things. Miriam says, my education was a lot of self-studies, curiosity, and of course art through my father at first, and experience over the years. Yeah, with the years. I'm really interested to find out what everybody, how everybody went about developing the skills that, that they use creatively. I'd be keen to finding that out from folks. So if you feel comfortable sharing that, please feel free to share that to me. A lot of the people in this larger online community are educators, are teachers, are, art teachers specifically and the like, right? And there's a great history of people that are educators that teach others art and or whatever else, that are always in denial of the fact that, no, I don't do that. I'm an artist first. Not everybody. It's not an everybody thing. Nothing ever is that comes out of my neck. But there's a history of prominent American abstractionists that would refuse to admit that they paid their bills by by teaching at school. It's kind of funny to me. I'm a big fan of Hans Hofmann and his thinking along the lines of educating. And if you were in his class, he would walk up to your work and start drawing and erasing right on top of it. And some people would get really upset. And he'd say, "You're a student. You're not an artist. You're a student here. This isn't your work. This is homework. This is schoolwork for you right now. When you're a professional artist, then you can tell people not to come up and erase it. When you're in my class, guess what's happening?" Now that's paraphrasing because he was the big German guy. Yeah, like big rice like this. So I can't imagine the complexities and challenges to present teachers today when you have a generation that is so particular in school that they think, no, this is the way. I'm going to do it this way. They believe that they can make the decisions of how things are going to go. Or their parents believe that they can come in and say, "No, so-and-so wants to do things this way." Because I've seen it. I've seen it over the years with my own kids, and honestly, I was a student council chairman at one point, and people are goofy. My precious Billy doesn't want to use the color green. It's never been that. He says, "People portrait's hard. I prefer animal portrait." Yeah. I don't blame you. I have a degree in graphic design and illustration, and another degree in teaching English as a foreign language. That's fantastic, Chris. So 2 degrees. I'm trying now with self-portraits. Today did the 3rd with different facial expressions. Thank you, Christopher. Oh yeah, study different facial expressions, and another thing that you can do for yourself, and some people have a challenge with this, is get a mirror and just make faces in the mirror and draw the faces, and you're drawing that face for however long. And there's you don't need to be worried about other people seeing it unless you yourself are going to share it. But there's fewer ways that you can have a better understanding of how to draw different faces and different structures by contorting your own. Rembrandt van Rijn, there's a guy who did that so thoroughly. They believe that he may be the artist who saved the classic artist. There's all these modern artists that are they just constantly do it, and that's all that they do, which is kind of missing the point. He did it as a study. Some of these people do it because they're narcissists, but for years and years and years, he's the one artist that had the most representations of his own face. I know we study others. Chris has a master's degree in education. Otherwise, I wouldn't be allowed to teach at a university level. Yep. That's pretty good. So that's 3 degrees. 2 degrees and a master's degree. Wow, my goodness. Miriam says, my degree is on computers. Technical high school. Better use a pen to procreate. There you go. I did self-portraits in the past with a mirror because there's no computers at the time. Oh, sure. Here's a fun thing. Are people familiar with what a camera obscura is? Because those that aren't, I can explain that. Maybe I should just explain it. A camera obscura is, depending on the way you utilize it, there's a number of different methods, but is a thing that gives you the facility to set up an image of a bunch of models over there, okay? And the models are acting everything out like we've got them placed in such a way as they're, St. Peter being placed on the cross by Caravaggio. He's being hung upside down on a cross, and the cross will be lifted up, and he'll be crucified, accordingly. But so Caravaggio would have all of these people assembled in one room, and then he would have everything blacked out and curtained out, and then he would have a refraction of light through placement of mirrors and a device where he would look over his eye and squint and look across this planar mirror so that he can see through refraction and reflection. He could see the models in the other room and lay this out over his composition. And then either redraw that up or through candlelight project it up onto the larger surface. And we're seeing more and more examination of that in the artistic world to recognize that not every master spent their time painstakingly laying out these large compositions. Like, for a fact, we know that, Michelangelo in his studio would do these big compositions in charcoal on paper, and then somebody's job was specifically to put holes in these sheets of paper, and then those would come up, and the paper would be adhered to the surface and the fresco that it was to be worked on, and it would be tamped with a rag full of charcoal, and so the dots would go through onto the surface that he was going to work on. And so they'd take the paper down, and he'd do rough paint over, he'd trace his own lines. And that's how he would get these, to be able to work on these things. A whole degree of artists were doing this. Seven says, awesome. You're awesome, Seven. I know what it is, but can't explain it. It's a tough one, isn't it? Did you see a movie about a copy of a Danish painter using camera obscura? No, I did not. I'm going to have to find out if anybody knows what it is. Vermeer used it. Yes. Girl with Pearl earring. We know for a fact now that Vermeer used it. Right? We know for a fact now because of accounting. Yeah, you got to love the Dutch and the Flemish for their accounting. Danish, I think, is Vermeer. Is he Danish? Maybe. I don't know. But is he Danish? I always thought Vermeer was Flemish or Dutch. No, Dutch is Rembrandt van Rijn or Vincent van Gogh. Those guys are both Dutch. And Dürer was German, Austro-Hungarian, I think. Who cares? They're artists. But yeah, maybe it's Vermeer from Chris says he's Dutch. Okay, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so it's interesting to see how we're understanding more clearly that it's not so much as stripping the magic, because that's how some people feel it is, as it is having a better comprehension of how people work. And let's be a little more accepting to the fact that not everybody just, I'm going to draw this. There it is. It's not easy to do that. It's tough for all of us. For goodness sakes. Silver point. That might be the one form of drawing. And if people aren't, I keep saying that. If you're not familiar with silver point, let me know and I'll tell you. I'll just tell you. Silver point is where you actually draw with a thin thread of, kind of looks like if you're doing soldering, like a piece of solder. It's a thin thread of metal, silver. And you place it within a pencil lead holder, and you go onto a piece of wood that has been primed and sanded, and so you draw with this, and it works very much like a graphite. The difference being is light, and how light works off of the specific mineral composition that you're using, which is very different than graphite. Graphite has a different form of reflection, whereas silver point has a reflection of colors, not just of the different tones of blacks and whites and grays. So Saw the camera. It looks like a dentist tool, right? I'll show you what it looks like. I'll draw it on a piece of paper here. Yeah, they got any paper around? Oh, I do. All right, so it's basically a little device, and it has a refractive lens right here, okay? And so you look through this aperture, but here's the lens, okay? This aperture sits on a handle, and that handle, depending on the complicatedness of it, you can adjust accordingly down to its base. Now, here underneath it is your piece of paper, okay? Now, the source of information that's coming from this externalized locality, whatever it is, if it's a group of people over there, if it's another composition, whatever it is, you're looking at through this aperture here down to your surface of paper. Now, because your eye is transitioning up above and below in this little apertured area, and your hand is now tracing down onto the surface this reflected image that you're seeing here from this source. And so as you're drawing these people that are sitting in repose, and you've got their, you're drawing whatever objects that you've assembled over there, it's going to be to start off with, it's the reversed image. You're drawing out of a mirror, right? So it's a reversed image. But this device, right, is camera upscale. Now, pinhole photography, early photography was done in this way, that you would have a box, just a standard old box, and you would have one surface of it or another that you could take off. Now, you would do this is a case of finding a convex lens or concave or convex lens. And what you would do is you would place this inside your box, right? And if you use that, now you've got your three-sided box, you've got your convex lens, and you've got a light source someplace in the room coming down here. So what that light source is reflecting into this dark box is whatever the source image is that's in front of it. And it projects it down. Let me draw the whole dimensionality of the box. It projects it down onto this surface of paper right here. And it's the same thing. It works the same way, right? So there's the one that looks like a dentist tool. And there's the box way of doing it. And it was through the creation of this, it was through the creation of this object, the box. There's the lens on the front face of the box, picking up whatever the source information that's arranged in front of it. It comes through here, supplied by the light source into this dark contained space, and the light illuminates this area right here and puts that image that's in front onto that piece of paper. You're drawing a reverse image, just like you're drawing a reverse image here. It was through the creation of this object, and then, accordingly through this object, that we came up with the lack of need for this. We put a pinhole within a box, and now that box is arranged in 3 dimension. And then on the back of this box is treated paper, with chemically treated papers. As soon as we started having better comprehension of chemical emulsion, chemically treated paper, and by uncovering the hole, an average of 15 to 30 seconds, depending on the strength of the chemical solution that the paper is treated with. Back in the early days, it could be 20 minutes. Okay, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it is. Nobody move. You open it up, and then you close it. You keep that closed. You then take that paper into a dark room, and you would treat it through a wash, and then you would put it into another paper that draws up the negative material. And now you've got a photo negative of whatever your source is. Then we have complete, and then there's the start of photography. But you see how all those things interconnect. Movie is called Tim's Vermeer. It's from Penn and Teller. Oh, good for them. Good for them. Penn and Teller are fantastic filmmakers, by the way. They also have a great film called Aristocrats. This picture needs more dog. Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. How you doing? My eye never transitions. Complete CIS, no matter what people say. Imagine if after all that effort went to do the transition. It might take hormones once, but that's another story. Oh, there we go. You guys are maniacs. Secret sauce. Anyhow, there's a whole bunch of different devices in a nutshell. I don't know if that helps anybody. So I'm putting down the, oops. So here's our image. I'm putting down the color of, putting down some color in some of the grass. So I have to make a decision on where this panel is going to stop. So it's going to be here. And so we'll just get some of these elements in here. And I'm using the lightest color that I'm going to put in the grass first. And the reason that I'm doing it that way is because once I have this base value down, I can then take a darker green and I can go into each of these blades of grass and define the undertone, the shadow tone. Yahoo, grass! Okay, we'll do some more of the cat. Thank you for sharing. Aw, Christopher has his family as a screensaver. Yeah. Yeah, that's me. You caught me. Sweet and saccharine. That's what they call me. Those are my middle names. First name Mr., last name Runciman. Anyways. Okay, so I'm coming in with this darker green now. And I'm using this as kind of an intermediate green. And what I mean by that is I'm going to take, I hate when the lead breaks when you're working. I hate it so much. So, flames, behind my head, inside my head. Okay, so using this green to put some of the highlights into the grass and start changing that, giving them a little bit more dimension, showing what crosses over with what, etc., etc. It's almost ready. And then I'm still going to put in some of these marks and these values into cat's choker. And then I'm going to come through in between some of these leaves or blades of grass and start putting in the darker value of the cat's fur. And in that way, the cat is embedded into the grass, placed in behind the planes of the grass, so that we know that the cat's here and it's receding, but this informs us about how the grass is before this part of the cat image that we can see behind it. I'm happy to slap him on your behalf if you wish. Please do. No, don't. There goes the old chat box. Oh my gosh. Gotta go. See you around next week. Nico's looking great. Thank you. Hey, thank you for sending me the image, Chris. We'll have this posted for Monday. This will be posted for Monday because I post the Saturday and Sunday pages that I post aren't ones that, those are Patreon exclusive ones. So I only put those up on my Patreon. So this will be on Monday on Instagram and Facebook. If you've got, if you guys are looking to see where the results of things are there, check there. I don't, because my phone is low. My phone, 5 kids, same spouses, grandkids, mother, sisters, nephews, too much. What did I miss there? I missed something, I'm sorry. I might just be forgetting what the heck I even said myself. Oh, I see. Robert says Chris's family on a screensaver. And then Miriam says, I don't because my phone's little. And I have 5 kids, the spouses, 3 grand. Oh, these are just my kids. I have 5 kids. I've got, there's 3 partners, right? Son-in-law. My one daughter has a partner. My one son has a partner. And then I've got 5 grandkids, etc., etc. So that's not even including everybody else, but property values are going to tumble. Oceans are going to rise, skies are going to fall, dogs are going to bark, cats are going to be drawn. Dogs already bark, David. It's begun. Hi, babe. Baby's showing me again. Still going, Dad. Okay, so this is just putting into the grass area where the remains of the cat is going to incorporate. Now, I am not sticking hard and fast with the source image. You're just going to make yourself crazy doing that. You get the idea. The cat is behind some grass. But if you want to sit down and delineate the grass specifically in accordance to the way that it is in the image, you've got some time ahead of you. We're just trying to tell a story. We're not. The process isn't about replicating source images. The process is utilizing source images in order for us to be able to tell our story. So you get the gist, cat in bush, and then we move forward, right? Because the viewer is not going to know if it looks exactly like the picture that you used to work from, if you're working from the phone. The viewer will never know that unless you supply photos for everything you ever draw. And why would you do that? Who has that kind of time? So don't worry about that too much. Get the idea of cat in grass and move on. Safe winner for most today, Chris. Yeah. That's nice. Chrissy's come out. How you doing today, Chrissy? Keeping it in line, I see. Saccharine picture of my family. You're not wrong. I know him. Oh, Chris is sentimental. Now, in this instance, I'm not overly concerned about a bleed edge because I'm going to scan and pull this image where I want it. So I'm not doing this hard, sharp line for the outside of my frame. Again, less concerned about all of that spit and polish nonsense and more concerned about capturing the image to move forward from there. But you can see how it's starting to take shape. And then as we add in the intermediate green that I was mentioning earlier, start giving a little more dimension and volume to the blades of grass. You get a better sense of it. Do it as in the picture, take a picture. There you go. So I'm more concerned about leaving space in here that much when you're illustrating a story that incorporates text and visual image together, you've got to account for the fact that part of your visual image, no matter how much time and effort you put into it, it's going to be covered up by words. It's just how it goes. I've shown on the stream before Winsor McKay's work, absolutely gorgeous, fantastic illustrations with the worst text boxes that you've ever seen, where, I mean, the balloon would go around it like this in the pictures, because he didn't want that. He didn't think that the text should interfere too much with the art. The problem with this is so bad, it's exactly what it did, and that's why this sort of dialogue that, you know, the balloon just is a shape that encloses but doesn't encapsulate the text. It just encloses it so that it differentiates it off of the surface of the art plane so that it's easier to read, it's more legible. And if you go through Winsor McKay's work and do balloons like that, it would change the perspective of it massively. So, ooh, I see. That's supposed to be grass. Okay, Chrissy, now. What time are we at? It's 1:46. A couple more minutes, and then I gotta get rounded. Right? It's easy in Canada to see a whole bunch of different blades of these things and go, is that weed? Because of our proliferation of marijuana stores that have taken over everywhere. So just adding that second value onto the grass gives it more form. And then you get even crazy, and put a third value. But don't feel the necessity to have to completely enclose that line. And what I mean by that is, if you leave pencil sharpener, just janked up. If you leave spaces in between that line, so if I'm coming here, and then I'm going to fill in this part, because that is more how color works out there in the big old world, and our eyes fill in the difference so that you see that as solid lines or not. You see that as in solid form, solid shape. Truth is, it's not. It's just parts of it. Sneaky, sneaky. Nature, you give this every time. I'm not really a creative, more of a critic. We need them all. We don't need critics. And then I'm going to put little hits of yellow into some of the green. Because that's what nature does. It spills more colors in every object than you actually initially realize. And I do this often where I'll put a deep blue or an ultramarine blue over top of an umber to make a more translucent charcoal color that has these other colors that come out of it. So I tend to like that more so than grays or black. I like to do these variated colors underneath, hence this business in here. It'd be far easier just to use a black pencil. I don't critic everyone, just Chris. It's not fair. It's not fair, I tell you. If I listened to him, it would hurt. There we go. All right, well, lots more work to do on this. I got to put the rest of the form of the cat in through here, some more of the grass area, just to make sure that I have some backdrop for the text in its overlay space. So I want to move this over probably the edge of the page and bring this up to the top of the page. And then that way it gives me more choice for where I can overlay the text so that it has the potential of above and below image when that text sits on the panel. But we'll get down to it. So this page is the Cat Butler has world domination, and this is suggested by Miriam. And I will be presenting this on Monday on Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. The original will be on Patreon. And in the interim, this weekend I might pop in. Monday is a holiday, and it's Lori's birthday. So I am going to come on for a little bit. It won't be a very long one. It'll be an hour and a half. But, and I'll be working on a page on Monday. I wrote it down. It's just suggested to me. It's a relative that puts flour onto things, turning them into something else. This is a suggestion that my friend Monica gave me today. So we'll be doing that on Monday. All right, and Tuesday is 3-Prompt Tuesday, in which I will be doing another one of these. These are little zine books that we're making. These are bad prints of it because that's why I'm keeping them and not mailing them out. But these are fun little things made out of a single sheet of paper, folding up to tell a story. And then there's another punchline inside. And then beavers. What? And then this is all about the beavers. Cup of tea. Aye, sounds lovely. Tea, thank you. So what happened then? I keep introducing tea in this beaver recounting being chased by a broom for no reason at all. Yeah, so there's the beaver story. So I'll be doing one of those on Tuesday. All right, and walking people through the process of making these. And that's about it for me. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming and hanging out. You're all fantastic people. Hi, I'm Mandy. I'm so sorry. Here you are arriving close, and I'm wrapping up. It's been a joy, each and all. Sorry I was late this afternoon. I was off shopping for me and my neighbor. What'd you get me? Oh, thanks. That's very nice of you, Miriam. So tune in on Monday at 2, and I'll see you then. If anybody's working on stuff, if anybody sees any of these suggestions or idea prompts or the 3-word prompts that I've been given by people, feel free to do your own version of those. I would love to see them. I try my best to look at what everybody's doing out there so that, I can try to be as supportive as I can. It's been a really hectic little while for us, though, so I apologize for not being on top of it all the time. But thank you, everybody, for taking those opportunities yourself and trying to interpret the same stories, because it's a lot of fun. And there's no part of me that's like, no, this is how I do it. Oh, and Paul's joined us. I'm so sorry. People are coming in just as I'm wrapping up. I apologize for that, Paul and Mandy. I will make it up to you. Paul, let me know if you're going to be on this weekend, and I'll come and hang out with you. How's that sound? Everybody, take a look at each other's pages, by the way. Like Paul Pate does Saturday morning cartoons on YouTube here, and then Mandy and Miriam and Chris, they all have their own. Jim was here. Jim does as well. And Chris Kaluri, that was here from Mexico. And Seven, I think. Seven, are you doing YouTube streams too? But take a look at each other's streams and see what everybody's up to. It's a lot of fun. You can see Paul working digitally on his 3rd graphic novel, and he is kicking those pages out. So he says they're around 100 pages each. They're all over 200 pages. It's hilarious. Anyways, they're about 100 pages, 230 pages in one book. Anyways, I'm gonna take off. Thank you very much, everybody, for hanging out. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you Monday. All right, bye for now.